Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum everyone.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Walaikum assalam.
Faiza, if you could make me the co-host quickly, so I'll be able to share my BBD and all in case I want to.
All right. Perfect. Very warm welcome to everyone who has joined us so far. This is Anam Zera from Learning Minds, and I'm the General Manager Trainings, and I'm leading the customized training projects at Learning Minds. So first of all, I think we do have Minhas with us as well. Minhas, you're already the co-host of the program. I'll just take a few minutes to just give the introduction of what we are going to do, what we are about to do in this session. So this is our third session of the series, the webinar series that we are doing with our trainers and experts. And this particular session is going to be all about communication and understanding the game of communication. So it's going to be a general session where we'll be taking your problems and issues regarding communication as well. But particularly, Minhas is going to address few very common barriers of communication that he has been listening so many times in his trainings, in his sessions. And, people are also approaching him through his emails and WhatsApp, how they can improvise and how they can improve this area better. So it will be a fun session. We'll be trying कि हम लोग इसको बहुत interactive रखें. We'll be taking in your responses. We'll be asking you questions as well. So without any further ado, I would just like to introduce my trainer for today. So Minhas Megani is a certified trainer and communication specialist with more than half of a decade of training experience, and he has been working with us since 2 to 3 years now, and we have done some amazing projects together, be it oil and gas sector, power sector, and we have done some amazing projects together. So, and Minhas has a special interest towards simulation-based, game-based programs. So it's not just a plain communication training. He tries to bring in the elements of games and activities so that the learning is instilled in the participants. So here we go with Minhas. Minhas, I would welcome you to the session, and I would like you to say hello to all the participants, and it's your game now.
Hello everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
अच्छा जी, मैं फिर से कह देता हूँ एक दफ़ा और. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Big hi to all of you all who have joined us, and especially people who joined a little before time. Most of the people are very punctual as well. I want to appreciate that. Anam ने इतना ज़बरदस्त अभी मेरा introduction दिया है that after listening to such a good introduction,
Sir, you are not audible. Sir, kindly unmute yourself.
Yeah. Is this better? Acha.
Yes,
What was the last thing that you heard? What was the last thing that you heard from me?
When you took a pause, after that you were muted.
I was saying that Anam ने इतना ज़बरदस्त introduction दिया है that after hearing such a nice intro, I am also very excited to listen to myself. So I was thinking, who's this guy she's talking about? Anyway, very kind of you, Anam. So as she has mentioned, I work as a communication coach for Learning Minds, as a consultant and a communication specialist. And how I ended up being that is like the journey started years ago when my core competency, you can say, or the programs that I used to offer was language proficiency programs. That's how I began. And Fortunately, I was to join an organization that worked on globally. So I got to meet people of varied backgrounds, different nationalities, people from all walks of life, all age groups. And then gradually, when I moved on, I realized that language is not the only thing that people want to improve on. Okay, so it's not just about learning the language, but it's a lot more than that. So now we customize programs. My team and I, we are very proud of that we are able to customize programs and provide and offer these programs to our clients who are mostly corporations across Pakistan and in the nearby regions as well. So we make programs for them for interpersonal skills, for business writing skills, for verbal, non-verbal communication. Language elevation programs are always there. And presentation skills, very important for people, for professionals of today. So ये सारी चीजें होती हैं program का part. आज का the topic that I have today is especially very close to me because it says the game of communication, and also we are talking about the hurdles, the barriers of communication and the gateways as well. So what do people face usually? Okay, और मैं इसमें theory से related बात नहीं करना चाहता कि physical barriers होते हैं or environmental barriers. I don't want to talk about that, but in reality, there are 3 to 4 things that the 3 to 4 areas where we face a lot of troubles. I'm sure आप में से जो बहुत सारे ज़्यादातर लोग professionals हैं, so you would have seen that. Okay, the first thing that I want to talk about is the language barrier, but I want to focus also on the way we acquire language. जैसे कि language acquisition, जो कि हम नई language acquire करते हैं, हम कैसे सीखते हैं चीज़ों को. That is something I want to talk about. और या तो फिर you know the language very well, but you join a new office or you be part of a new workforce, and then you realize कि यहाँ की language बिल्कुल अलग है. May it be very professional or some jargon that they use or anything. So how do you cope with that? And what kind of hurdles you face with that? So that, and how can we get out of it? So that is one thing I want to talk about. Then of course, the interpersonal skills, the most important, the people skills, कि आप लोगों के साथ interact कैसे करते हैं. एक छोटा सा point है जो हम अक्सर नजरअंदाज कर देते हैं. I want to talk about that in that as well. And of course, then we'll move on to the listening bit. एंड अगर हमारे पास वक्त बच गया थोड़ा सा तो हम कुछ पॉइंट्स राइटिंग के भी डिस्कस कर लेंगे. बट दीज आर द 4 एरियाज आई हैव ऑलवेज नोटिस, एंड most of the people who are communicating, especially for business, face hurdles in these 4. So हम शुरू करते हैं. सबसे पहले तो by the way, there are some myths about communication also that I want to address here. So एक सबसे पहला जो myth हमें नजर आता है, यानी कि एक misunderstanding. A lot of people believe in this, but it's not true, which is language is directly proportional to communication. So what it means is कि जितनी ज्यादा आप English language बोलेंगे, उतनी ही ज्यादा आप अच्छे से communicate कर पाएंगे. English language is one very important tool in the business today. Of course, आप globally काम कर रहे हैं, आप एक अच्छे professional हैं, you want to grow further. So of course, language is an essential part of that. But then, is English language the only thing that we want to work on? No. Language communication is way beyond that. Okay, so that is one thing that I want to talk about. First of all, that is a myth of communication, very common myth of communication. Anything else? मैं काफी सारे लोगों में join कर चुके हैं. I would like to ask you, what do you think? Take 30 seconds time and share in the chat box. What do you think are the myths about communication? लोग समझते हैं communication ऐसा होता है, लेकिन actually वैसा होता नहीं. What do you think? What can be a big misunderstanding or myth about communication? Okay, great. So we are starting with Binesh's answer. That is too much. Too much of talking is good communication. People misunderstand that. Of course, that's not true. Okay, मैं एक बात छोटी सी यहाँ पे clear कर लूँ. नवीद साहब कह रहे हैं कि the point is good, but I'm talking about English language here, by the way. Language is, of course, an essential part of it, but English language is not only communication. Language तो है, of course. Okay, one-way communication kills it, of course. It's all about verbal, they say. Yeah, of course, written is extremely important too. And Okay, all right. So people feel that a content doesn't matter that much. Style has to be very attractive, and style is extremely important. No, no, that's not true. The content is the king, actually. Okay, so directly relate. Okay, fine, fine, जबरदस्त. तो मेरे पास काफी अच्छे यहाँ पे responses आ गए हैं. So some of the myths that I also want to share with you that I have experienced working with professionals during all these years. The one thing that kills it right away is if we all can mute. Okay, so I'll put it to mute all for now. All right. So one thing that really kills it is the know-it-all approach. So some of the times, sometimes you might feel that, okay, I know this thing. I already know this thing. I have done this already. Okay. So the people who would say, I know it all already will actually not be able to improve on it. Okay. So this is a big killer, first of all, right away. This has to go. This approach has to go. So you should always be willing to learn something new to communicate better. एक और बहुत बड़ी misconception होती है that people are born with it. A lot of us feel that okay, ये किसी के अंदर given होता है. Some people, especially when it's time for public speaking, you know, some people are called in front, so you say no, 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 please don't call me. I get nervous very easily. तो आप किसी और को बुला लें, उसके पास पहले से ये skill मौजूद है. So that's true. कुछ लोगों के पास होती है, but it's not the case that only people with the natural talent will be able to do it for the rest of their lives. People are born with it. That's true. Some people are naturally talented with few things, but can you not reach their level? Of course you can. Can you not go beyond that even? Of course you can. ठीक है. So people may have a natural talent for something. कुछ लोग वाकई में communication में बहुत अच्छे होते हैं, people skills में, presentation skills में. But क्या आप सीख कर उनके level तक पहुंच सकते हैं? Of course पहुंच सकते हैं. Of course पहुंच सकते हैं. So this is a big barrier जो कि यहाँ पे होता है. सबसे बड़े जो barriers हैं वो writing skill की और presentation skills की भी बाद में आते हैं. First, it's all in the mind. So this is the barrier that we have to take seriously. Okay. Okay, one more thing is that once I have done it, I know it all. Okay, once I've done it, I know it all. तो अब तो मैंने तो इतनी सारी emails लिखी हैं, तो अब तो now I know. For the rest of my life, अब मैं same format पे email लिख सकता हूँ. This is also a big misunderstanding that people have. कि जब हम communicate करते हैं, एक ही तरह से करते आ रहे हैं और वो हमारे लिए work किया है, तो अब for the rest of our lives वो हमेशा काम करेगा. That's not true, especially in the changing world today. जल्दी adapt करने की हमें अब ज्यादा जरूरत पड़ेगी. Before, maybe you would learn a structure for email. आपने एक structure सीखा email लिखने का, and you will keep writing the same way for the next 20 years जब तक आप retire ना हो जाए. Now it's all changing. You know about it. Okay, it's becoming more concise. Okay, speed matters here. तो हर चीज यहाँ पे change होती जा रही है आहिस्ता आहिस्ता. So you will have to be more adaptable with time. मैं एक example देता हूँ इसकी, बड़ी मजे की example है. जब आप प्रेजेंट करने के लिए जाते हैं, जब आप पब्लिक स्पीकिंग के लिए जाते हैं, तो कुछ चीजें इंपॉर्टेंट होती है जो कि आपकी ऑडियंस नोटिस करेगी. सम ऑफ द थिंग्स दे विल ऑब्जर्व फर्स्ट राइट अवे, जिससे सबसे ज्यादा आपकी प्रेजेंटेशन पे फर्क पड़ेगा. व्हाट इज दैट थिंग? कैन यू टेल मी? Let's have your answer in the chat box. What is that one thing that will that will affect your presentation the most? Let's have some answers in the chat box. Of course, confidence level, appearance, they will notice first. Exactly. बहुत सारी चीजें वैसे इसके around ही हैं, and most of the people have answered body language. So I'm glad to see that. So body language is something that people will notice right away. It will affect even what you're saying. That will also be affected because of your body language, because positive body language, overall posture, it will show your confidence as well. वो आपकी appearance को भी खराब कर सकता है if the body language is bad. Okay, so that matters the most. बिल्कुल सही जवाब है. But अब पिछले कुछ महीनों से हम देख रहे हैं कि now we are all working virtual. Okay, so we have all gone virtual now. इस तरह के सिनेरियो में right now also, see, you're part of a webinar right now. not a regular seminar. So इस तरह के scenario में body language will of course matter. How I move my hands, मेरे gestures क्या हैं, if I smile, the kind of clothes that I'm wearing and all, it will of course matter. Even the eye contact can matter if I'm looking at you or looking at the camera directly or not. But you see, two things that will matter even more than that have become the lighting. तो अगर बिल्कुल ही dim light हो जाए अचानक से, okay, या मैं camera angle, you might have seen this kind of a camera angle or sometimes this kind of a camera angle, okay, and people don't even realize that. अगर आपने virtual meetings attend किए recently, you would have seen many people sitting like this. So they don't even realize how what they are actually presenting here. Okay, so when it comes to presenting something, presenting yourself also, अब body language से भी बढ़ के जो चीज आ गई है वो camera angle और light ज्यादा important हो गई, because we are dealing with people virtually here. Okay, so it's always, you always have to see how you can adapt with time. जैसे जैसे चीजें change होती जा रही हैं, you should be willing to do that. And of course, one very big misunderstanding that I mentioned earlier, when you feel that English language is the only way you can improve your communication, that's one part of it. Of course, that helps you a lot. बहुत ज्यादा English language के बगैर अब कोई चारा नहीं है, और जितनी ज्यादा आपकी proficiency improve होती जाए, that helps you in a lot of other ways also, apart from just verbal communication. But the point I want to make is कि इसके अलावा और बहुत सारी चीजें, एक बहुत जरूरी चीज है, that is the interpersonal communication as well. So when I ask people, who is the most important person you communicate with? Who is the most important person you communicate with in your office? What is your answer? I can see some people who are attending my session second or third time, so it'll be easier for them. But जो लोग पहली दफा attend कर रहे हैं, can you answer this in the chat box? My question is, who is the most important person you communicate with in your office? Clients, of course. सबसे ज़्यादा important clients. Some people say, no, boss is even more important. Line manager. Immediate boss, of course. Co-workers as well. हो सकता है किसी ने subordinate भी कह दिया हो. Okay. Vendor subordinates, of course, over this. लेकिन इससे भी ज़्यादा. Or exactly. Now I've got the answer. So Hira has given the right answer. Kudos to her. So Hira says, and I'm sure अब बहुत सारे लोग ये जवाब देना शुरू कर देंगे. Oh, actually, it's me. Yeah. Okay, fine. So of course, boss तो सबसे ज़्यादा important है, client सबसे ज़्यादा important है. लेकिन even before communicating with them, you communicate with yourself. Whether you realize that or not, whether you acknowledge that or not, you do communicate with yourself. Okay. तो जब आप निकलते हैं मीटिंग, क्लाइंट से मिलने के लिए जाने के लिए, अगर आप कभी मीटिंग पे भी जा रहे हैं, रास्ते में you think about it कि I hope कि ट्रैफिक आज कम हो. You think about it that the idea that I'm bringing to my boss, I hope boss को ये idea पसंद आए. This is what's going on in your mind, and that is what I'm talking about. This is the way you communicate with yourself. So before going to the boss, when you,
ये देखो स्क्रीनशॉट भेजूं, भेजा हुआ तो है, नहीं को बोलो देख लो.
okay, before guys, we'll have to keep our mics mute. Okay. Once in a while, I might get noise from someone, so it will disturb the session. So let's keep it mute for now. Okay, and we are having your answers through the chat box. So when you're bringing an idea to your boss and you're thinking about it, ke pata nahi, I'm not sure about this idea and all, there are more chances that the boss will also not like the idea. Whereas when you are certain and the boss has some reservations about it, you will be able to convince him as well. Convince him or her, because you were in a position, आपने अपने आप से इतना अच्छा communicate किया हुआ था, and you were so convinced about it that you will even be able to convince other people. Okay, so that's something that plays a very important part, and that is what we call intrapersonal communication. So वो एक बहुत बड़ा barrier होता है that people are all the time focusing on how others are going to react, how others are going to see it. एक बहुत बड़ा barrier यहाँ पे, एक बहुत बड़ी चीज जो छूट जाती है बीच में, I would say a missing link, we can say more than a barrier, a missing link is that I forget to communicate with myself first. Do I like this idea? And then I go to other people for that. So जब हम दूसरे लोगों से communicate करते हैं, that is the interpersonal. But हम जब अपने आप से कर रहे हैं, that is the intrapersonal communication. And of course, जब हम इसकी तरफ ज़्यादा जाते हैं, when we are able to talk to ourselves and bring better clarity with self communication as well, it brings you better awareness कि actually में चीजें क्या हो रही हैं. You are able to look at the things more objectively. तो आपका perspective बेहतर हो जाता है. You have better awareness of it, of the things that are happening around you. That brings an inner self confidence as well. Okay, so self confidence, दो तरह का confidence होता है ना. One confidence is when you say I'll do it, that's it, no matter what happens I'm going to do it, that's it, I'll kill it. But जब आप actually उसमें हाथ डालते हैं, you might realize, oh no, ये तो बहुत ज़्यादा difficult काम है. तो मैंने ऐसे ही confidence में अपने कह दिया था, that some people call overconfidence as well. मतलब कह दिया था, but now I'm not able to execute it the way I wanted to. और एक कॉन्फिडेंस है जो एक्चुअली में द रियल सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस दैट यू गेट इज मैं ये काम 4 मर्तबा कर चुका हूं. एंड देन समबडी टेल्स यू आप 5वीं दफा कर देंगे, ऑफ कोर्स नो प्रॉब्लम एट ऑल. दैट इज द एक्चुअल कॉन्फिडेंस दैट वी वांट टू हैव. ओके, सो एंड देन आफ्टर दैट ऑफ कोर्स यू आर सेल्फ मोटिवेटेड, यू आर बेटर कॉन्फिडेंट एंड यू आर एबल टू अडैप्ट इजीली, जिसकी हमने अभी थोड़ी देर पहले एक एग्जांपल के थ्रू बात की थी. ओके जी, so one of the things that becomes a big hurdle is also when we are not able to listen to people very carefully. वो एक बहुत बड़ा hurdle हो जाता है. And it also comes, it's a big hurdle in your way to building rapport with people. Rapport या जब हम connection बनाते हैं लोगों के साथ, rapport by the way is the backbone. Okay, so आप जितना भी अच्छा आप किसी को कॉम्प्लीमेंट कर सकते हैं, आप राइटिंग स्किल अपनी बहुत इम्प्रूव कर सकते हैं, आप बहुत अपनी तरफ से डिफरेंट तरह के एफर्ट्स कर सकते हैं, बट इफ यू डोंट हैव द कनेक्शन with the people you're communicating with, there can always be some kind of misunderstanding, or you will not be able to communicate 100% the way exactly that you would want to. So the connection, the rapport is extremely important. और उसके लिए एक बहुत सबसे जो जरूरी चीज होती है, of course, that is listening as well. अब listening में देखिए मैं एक example देता हूँ बड़ी अच्छी कि you want to listen to your coworker. आप अपने subordinate को चाहते हैं कि आप उसकी बात सुनें गौर से, आप ज्यादा जानना चाहते हैं. You want your subordinate to open up to you, कि वो थोड़ा सा खुल जाए. आपका, मैं स्पेशली सबऑर्डिनेट की एग्जांपल दे रहा हूं. तो आप लीड कर रहे हैं, आप काइंड ऑफ लाइन मैनेजर हैं या बॉस हैं, और आपका सबऑर्डिनेट इज नॉट एबल टू ओपन अप टू यू. व्हाट विल यू डू दैट यू थिंक विल ओपन अप योर सबऑर्डिनेट एंड विल बी एबल टू कम्युनिकेट बेटर विद यू नेक्स्ट टाइम? आप क्या इसमें एक स्टेप ले सकते हैं? लेट्स हैव योर आंसर्स इन द चैट बॉक्स. Have a one-to-one session, of course. थोड़ा सा specific अगर मुझे बता सकें one-to-one session में बात क्या होगी? बस एक one-liner, just one-liner. Asking questions, ठीक है. Asking questions is good, but about what? ठीक है, मुझे काफी अभी वैसे general answers मिल रहे हैं, and all the answers are correct. But what specifically will you ask your subordinate? कंफर्ट लेवल पे लाएंगे कैसे? स्ट्रैटेजी कैसी होगी? Personal connection by asking about family. I love that. Zabardast. So why do you always have to talk about work? You can also talk about the hobbies, anything, any leisure activities, family, anything else. And then when the connection is there, you can also bring it to your work. Then the connection doesn't go away, by the way. That's a very good strategy. But you are asking about the family the person doesn't want to share. Now what will you do? Have lunch together. Okay, the person will have lunch with you, but doesn't open up. Doesn't want to talk about the family. Doesn't want to talk about the hobbies. Now what can you do? आप सुनने के लिए बिल्कुल तैयार है, आप सुनने के लिए बिल्कुल तैयार है. The person doesn't want to open up. What can you do? Awesome. मैं यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा अपलोड कर देता हूँ. मैं नाम फॉरन से ऊपर चला गया. I got the perfect answer from someone. Zora की तरफ से मुझे बहुत जबरदस्त यहाँ पे जवाब मिला है. So I think she wants to say the same thing that I'm just going to share with you. So आप सुनने के लिए तैयार हैं, but are you willing to share? So the person doesn't want to open up to you, doesn't want to share anything. आप दूसरी चीजों के बारे में, apart from work, you are trying to get it out of that individual, but the person is not opening up. Are you willing to open up? Why don't you start sharing? Okay, so give that person a chance to listen to you first. क्यों ना आप share करना शुरू कर दें. Okay, this actually concept comes from the Johari window model. Okay, we don't want to keep it very technical right now, but the first step to building rapport is when you can ask questions, you can listen to people. जबरदस्त, बहुत जबरदस्त. लेकिन कभी-कभी ऐसा barrier आ जाता है when the person is not able to open up. Maybe because it's not, the mutual confidence has not been developed yet, or it's just the beginning of a new relationship. The person also can be an introvert for many other reasons. The person doesn't want to open up. You can always begin that. Okay, so you start talking about yourself, and then in return you start telling the person the things that he or she would not know about you or would not be able to guess about you. Then only फिर ये reciprocate होता है, बहुत खूबसूरती के साथ फिर ये reciprocate होता है when the other person is also able to open up and share things with you that you don't know about them. Okay, and that's how we go for the that's how we build that rapport, that connection, which is essential for interpersonal skills. Listening की मैं एक और यहाँ पे बात कर दूं that a lot of times people, ये तो हमें पता ही है that people which is very common, for a rebuttal people are listening for a quick response. जल्दी से response देने के लिए we are listening. Okay, or to make our point कि जल्दी से आपकी बात खत्म हो तो मैं जल्दी से बस खत्म करके then I will say what I want to say. Instead we can focus on what the other person is trying to get to. Now it's easier said than done, but अगर हम इसको, once upon a time, I also used to feel that all the listening is the same. Okay? So, but if you see different types of listening, it becomes very easy. कि आप एक वक्त में एक तरह की listening कर रहे होते हैं. You don't know about it, but if you recognize that कि अलग-अलग तरह की listening होती है और हम एक वक्त में इस वक्त कौन सी तरह की listening कर रहे हैं, the job becomes quite easy. और थोड़े देर से के बाद वो second nature बन जाता है. You would not have to decide or consciously think about it. वो automatically you would know what kind of listening you're trying to carry out. तो एक मैं 4 तरह की types of listening आपसे share करता हूँ. Okay, 4 types of listening. The first one is the appreciative listening. So here you are listening to people and you actually want to appreciate what's being said to you. A lot of times while listening to a very good presenter, आपका अगर कोई favorite speaker हो, आपका especially music as well, कोई favorite speaker हो, कोई analyst हो, आप music सुनते हैं, you want to appreciate what you're listening to. That is the first type. अगर आप चाहें तो कहीं पे लिख भी सकते हैं. Okay, if you're on your system, you can write in some word file, text box में लिख लें. If you have a writing pad, awesome. So you can note it down as well. And next time see what kind of listening is easier to you. आप कौन सी naturally listening आपको naturally बहुत easily आती है या फिर कौन सी listening पे आपको काम करने की जरूरत है. Okay, so you can figure out. To each his own. You can figure out it अपने आप के लिए. तो पहली तरह की appreciative listening, when you want to appreciate what you are listening to. The second is more of a comprehensive listening, जिसको कुछ लोग informational listening भी कहते हैं. So you want to grab everything. जब आप यूनिवर्सिटी में अपने लेक्चरर को सुनते थे, जब कभी-कभी मीटिंग्स में आप अपने किसी बहुत जरूरी चीज के बारे में ब्रीफ दिया जा रहा है, you are listening to something right now when you're listening, so you want to understand the main 2-3 topics and then you want to understand कि इसके सब topics क्या है. अच्छा, पहले Minhas was talking about myths about communication, then he talked about some of the ways intrapersonal communication can help us. तो थोड़ा सा interpersonal skills और अभी हम listening की okay fine 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 और listening के अंदर हम 4 चीजों के बारे में बात करें. Okay, ये सब topics है. तो अगर आप right now if you're trying to listen to me like this is what you are doing. You are actually carrying out some comprehensive या informational listening आप कर रहे हैं इस वक्त. ठीक है जी. The next one is empathetic listening. Naam se zahir hai, when you want to understand the emotions, when you want to see what the other person is going through, so you go through some of the empathetic listening. यहाँ पे बहुत ज़रूरी होता है कि आप सामने वाले को बहुत गौर से सुने. Never jump to conclusions very quickly, and always give it some time. No matter what the image of the other person is, never assume anything. Don't judge the book by its cover, and give it a lot of time. Empathetic listening बहुत important हो जाती है आज के business world में, in the corporate world, everywhere. When you interact with people and your co-work, when you want to work as a strong team, empathetic listening plays its part. And of course, the last one, the critical listening, when you want to even catch the nitty-gritties, okay? When you want to pick it apart, when you want to criticize on something, not specifically always criticize also, but you want to catch the minute details, especially when someone is trying to sell you something. If I'm trying to sell you something, then you would want to listen very carefully. कि अच्छा आप mention कर रहे हैं, it usually sounds very good. So when somebody is trying to sell, it can be some idea as well. But people are trying to sell you some product and you have never seen that product before. Sounds too good to be true. You would तो उस वक्त जो आप जिस तरह की listening करते हैं, that is the critical one. So the 4 types of listening that we just talked about. The appreciative listening, when you have some appreciation for the speaker or whoever you're listening to. Comprehensive or informational overall for the for understanding what the other person is saying. Empathetic listening, more to do with understanding the emotions and all. And the last one, of course, the critical listening. So you can ask yourself next time what you are doing. Like abhi maine example di, like you are listening to me right now. So you are trying to understand everything. Agar zehn mein khaka ban jaye, otherwise you will write down some points. You may want to write down कि ये 3 points थे और इसके sub points ये थे जिस पे कि हमने discuss किया था. These are the kind of things. So it's always a good idea to know what kind of listening is easier for you, what can be slightly difficult for you. So then you know your strengths and weakness and you can work it out accordingly. And of course, with that, you also see कि किस वक्त कौन सी listening की सबसे ज़्यादा ज़रूरत होती है. Okay, so somebody is sharing something with you that the person would not be able to share with anyone else, and you go for the critical listening. Oh, that can be disastrous. So you don't want to do that there. Okay, so understanding different types of listening and seeing how they can help you in different times is a very good idea. Okay, and the last part, of course, a lot of people face a lot of hurdles, a lot of problem while writing as well. So when it comes to written communication, people face a lot of problems. Can I get some of the responses in the chat box also? What kind of problems do you face? People who we have here, what kind of problems do you face while communicating in writing?
To give the same understanding what we are thinking to.
Okay. So I want to put on paper what's exactly in my mind. That is what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it should be simple, but unfortunately, it's not kept simple, and unfortunately, it's not that easy for people as well. So, oh wow, short of lexical resource. Okay. So we want to use good vocabulary as well. The structure, somebody mentioned grammar, of course. Trying to use over vocabulary. So that means that too much of vocabulary or jargon. Acha. Incomprehensible jargon, एक मुझे बड़ा अच्छा quote याद आ रहा है, but I don't know who wrote this one. Incomprehensible jargon is the hallmark of a profession. Incomprehensible jargon is the hallmark of a profession, somebody said. So I don't know if this was sarcastic. Sounds quite sarcastic कि जब आपको language समझ में ही आना बंद हो जाए तो आप समझ लें कि बहुत ज़्यादा ही कुछ ये शख्स प्रोफेशनल के बिल्कुल आखिरी सीढ़ी पे पहुंच चुका है अपनी. ठीक है. So well, jargon is technical, so it has to be used sometimes, but mostly can be avoided. Wrong use of synonyms of a word. Okay, fine. Okay, so मैं एक छोटी सी बात कर देता हूँ. We recently made a video about this also. If you have been connected to Learning Minds, you might have seen, शायद आपकी नजरों से गुजरी हो, which is about enjoying the process of written communication. So the biggest problem that people face here is that they start seeing it more like a task. Now, when you see it like a task, that's one of the problems. So how do you not see it like a task? How do you see it like a game? Okay. Or abhi to khair, we have recently designed a program as well that is business communication gamified, because games have this ability to engage you and increase your retention level as well. तो आपको वो चीज बहुत अरसे तक याद रह सकती है. So inshallah you'll soon be able to see more about this program as well. And we have recently made a video presenting the overview of the program. So this will all discuss with you the structures, and the tried and tested models and all, and the concrete steps you can take to improve your everyday communication and communication for business as well, all while playing games. That's a very good idea. Okay, but आम जिंदगी में अगर हम, ये तो खैर एक प्रोग्राम की बात हो गई, but आम जिंदगी में how can we see it more, especially when it comes to written communication, उसको we see it more like a task and more like a game. First of all, we have to understand the process. So it's a 4-step process. Okay, and the biggest problem that I see in people is that they are too critical of themselves. So they start writing and they automatically feel कि हाँ हमसे कोई गलती हो जाएगी. जो जहन में बात, अभी someone mentioned also that जो जहन में बात है exactly उसको किसी शख्स को communicate करना writing में. So the first thing is always the first step is never writing, by the way. First thing is always thinking about it. It's pre-writing. ठीक है, तो फर्स्ट स्टेप में होता है प्री राइटिंग, वेयर वी आस्क द क्वेश्चंस, व्हाई एम आई, स्टार्ट विद व्हाई ऑलवेज. व्हाई एम आई राइटिंग दिस? इज इट नेसेसरी? व्हाट डू आई एग्जैक्टली वांट टू कम्युनिकेट? Okay, how will the reader, how do I want to communicate? How will the reader see it? How do I want to communicate? मतलब अलग अलग तरीके हो सकते हैं कम्युनिकेट करने के. फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं ऑफिस में एक मैसेज कम्युनिकेट करना चाहता हूँ राइटिंग में, एंड आई वांट पीपल टू सी, एवरीवन टू सी दैट टुडे ओनली, एंड आज मुझे एक्नॉलेज भी कर दें कि उन सब ने ये पढ़ लिया. सो आई वुड प्रॉब्ली सेंड अ मेमो फॉर दैट. ओके, सो मे इट बी ईमेल, मेमो, लेटर हो, इवन रिपोर्ट राइटिंग हो. How do you want to communicate this to your reader? What exactly is it? What exactly is the message? अगर आप 3 messages के लिए एक साथ, and आमतौर पे communication email के through होता है, so I'll mention that example. So sometimes you might read an email that has 2 to 3 things going on, which is not a very good idea. Okay, so what is it exactly that you want to talk about? Just mention that in your email. अगर 4 अलग चीजें that are remotely related to each other, please उसके लिए कोई अलग email लिख लें फिर. ठीक है. So how do you want your reader to see it? How do you want to communicate? Very important. When are you trying to communicate? That is also extremely important. तो खुद से पहले अगर आप ये 3-4, वैसे WH क्वेश्चन 6 होते हैं, लेकिन अगर आप उसमें से 4 क्वेश्चंस भी ले लें, that is what, why, how, and when. When do you want to communicate? So when also plays a very important part. When, because इस वक्त environment क्या चल रहा है जिसको आप communicate कर रहे हैं? What is the atmosphere right now? So आपकी organization में इस वक्त बहुत ही serious environment चल रहा है, and वो environment ऐसा है जिसमें you want to, people are uncertain right now, जैसा अभी हो रहा था कुछ अरसे से. People are quite uncertain, अभी कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रही है, insecurities हैं. You don't want to write in that tone that will further disturb people. So you would probably want to motivate people, थोड़ी सी energy लेकर आए, the tone will be different. Everything is going awesome, everything is hunky-dory, people are having fun, very chilled out. You want people to get up and start working. You might use a little strict, strict थोड़ी सी हो जाएगी आपकी tone वहाँ पे. You might change your tone a little bit, seeing the organization culture, of course. So asking these questions will bring a lot of clarity in your mind. Okay, and after that, apart from this, we will also do one thing that in the second step, you only write. Okay, so in the second step, first you only ask yourself, don't write at all. Just bring some clarity. And in the beginning, it might take a good 5-7 minutes. Why am I writing? How do I want to communicate? When am I writing? In the beginning, it might take 5 extra minutes. But as you get used to it, it becomes very easy for you. फिर वो naturally आपके ज़हन में वो clarity लेके आ जाता है फौरन से, before even you start writing. The second step, you only write, and I cannot emphasize enough on this because this is the biggest hurdle people face. कि जब वो written communication के लिए जाते हैं, they are too critical. वो देखते हैं कि 2 lines लिख ली and फौरन से they start checking. They write 3 more lines, they start checking again, which is the biggest hurdle for you. You never want to do that. Okay, so let it go. Like जो किसी ने यहाँ पे लिखा था कि flow भी नहीं आता writing में. It has to have a rhythm. It has to have a flow. That also goes away. The speed of writing also goes away. It becomes very slow. Such a slow process after that because you are doing 2 things at a time. Okay, तो आप लिख भी रहे हैं, आप उसको check भी कर रहे हैं साथ ही साथ. Too much of a hurdle for you. Just focus on one thing, that is writing in a flow. That's it. जो भी आपके ज़हन में आप सारा वो communicate कर दें. That's it. First, bring some clarity. Second, just write it down. That's it. Don't think about correcting it at all. You're not allowed to look at it again. Just keep writing until you're done. जब पूरी तरह से वो idea paper पे आ जाए, after that only, the third step is when you go for the rewriting and editing, the third and fourth steps. Okay, so rewriting and editing मैं rewriting को I would keep on number 3 because you will reorder here. आप देख सकते हैं जो idea आपने लिखा है, क्या उसकी जो 2-3 points हैं, क्या you want to change the sequence of it, you want to reorder, you want to reorganize some text, ये सारा the flow, just check the flow only. And in the end, nitty-gritties, बहुत सारी छोटी minute details. Editing goes for everything. वैसे काफी generic, काफी general term है, but you can see it like this: that first you start with pre-writing, then writing only, then you go for the rewriting, and then editing. And of course, that's all part of it. Rewriting and editing मिला के ही proofreading बनता है. That is the proofreading. So you go for, in the fourth phase, you go for the spelling checking. You go for punctuation, spelling, grammar. Numbers तो गलत नहीं लिख दिए हैं कोई. Inverted commas required somewhere. आपने बहुत ज़्यादा caps lock, बहुत ज़्यादा सारे capital letters तो use नहीं कर दिए हैं. Capital letters is, by the way, a complete no-no. If you write the complete sentence in capital letters, that's a big no-no. So that's like screaming. So that is not advice. So you want to check all these things, and then you complete the process of writing. And this is the only way. This is the way you can also start seeing it more like a game. जैसे कि game में हम 4 rounds खेलते हैं. The first round, one thing at a time. You don't play 2-3 rounds together. Okay, so you'll be in a better position to enjoy it then after that. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the listening, the intrapersonal and interpersonal communication. Of course, the myths of communication, some of the problems people face in writing. I tried addressing that as well. Or the way to go for this is to enjoy the process. सारी की जो सारी बात है, सारे जो discuss करने का जो मकसद है, that is that you, on whole and overall, you try and enjoy the process. Because if you don't, you will not be able to elevate. You will not be able to improve it further. Okay, so then you just see it like a task and do it like an everyday job, which nobody would want. You would, first of all, you don't want to go through that drill all the time कि हमेशा आप एक task ही पूरा कर रहे हैं. Rather, enjoying is more fun, and then it gives you a chance to improve yourself as well. So I hope these ideas help you. So I think हम थोड़े से questions भी ले लेते हैं. वैसे मैंने meanwhile भी ले लिए हैं 2-4 questions. But
Exactly.
people
So
add.
this we have it's 3:45 almost, and according to the pattern of the webinars that we are following, we start taking in the questions at 3:45. So last 15 minutes is particularly regarding participants' interaction with us, where they can, ask questions related to the webinar or any common problems that they have been facing related to communication, they can come up with those. Meanwhile, Minhas, where the audience shared in their questions in the chat box, I would just like, I got few questions in on our Learning Minds WhatsApp number. And the first question is regarding improving your tone, be it your emails and in the verbal communication as well. So they basically try that. A lot of people, they, flow in a lot of in their email. So is that a right thing or not, and how they can improve their tone of their email? So this is the first question that we have got.
Okay. I'm glad to hear this thing, hear the detail of the question as well, that about both. It was asked about both the things, may it be verbal or written, because this is the most essential part of communication, and this is the only part that remains the same, by the way. If you have noticed, चीजें change हो जाती हैं when you go for verbal communication. जब आप written में आते हैं, body language is missing then, but then tone is something that stays there. Okay, so मैं पहले वर्बल की बात कर लेता हूँ, ओरल कम्युनिकेशन की मैं थोड़ी सी पहले बात कर लेता हूँ. The 3 best friends that you have for oral communication, your 3 best friends, you can write it down somewhere. The 3 P's. The 3 P's here are the pitch, the pace, and the pause. Okay, so first, फिर इसमें बहुत सारी चीजें हैं. You have to understand the timbre of your voice. आपकी voice बहुत आपकी voice में bass कितना है. You have to know your voice very well. Volume is extremely, बहुत सारी इसमें फिर चीजें आ जाती हैं. But regarding the tone, especially while talking to an audience, these 3 are the best friends that you have. Unfortunately, when you don't pay attention to them, these 3 only become your enemies as well, by the way. So अगर आप pitch गलत use करते हैं, अगर आप बिल्कुल pause नहीं लेते हैं, you are someone who just wants to keep in a talking in a flow with a lot of speed, बस आप बोलते चले जाएं, that's not something that which is natural, and it can go against you as well. So people will not be able to catch a lot of stuff from you. So these 3, pitch, pace, and pauses, make the most of them. And when it comes to written communication, अगर आपने C's of communication के बारे में सुना हो, but again फिर this is also one of the things about us that we have studied about this. We have seen it in theory. Probably शायद कभी business communication की class में पढ़ा होगा university में, but then we completely forget about it. So when it comes to real life, okay, and I play these kind of games with my clients sometimes, that I present them with an email and I say, can you tell me which C is missing here? And hardly anyone is able to figure it out, because the problem is that we have seen it more like theory. Okay, so हम real life examples में, you have to make sure to bring better clarity to your writing. Then apart from this, the point that I just made, that when you're writing, don't go for correcting it, one thing at a time. Okay, proofreading later, first just writing. And that also helps to improve the flow and the rhythm of it. And of course, being polite and courteous always helps. So that's how you can work on your tone for both oral as well as written communication.
Perfect. So next question we have from Zamran Khan. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. How to convey your message in flow when you have a lot to say?
Yeah, of course. The point that I just made, अगर आप उसको मैं अगर दोबारा से, if you allow me, मैं उस पर emphasize थोड़ा और कर सकूं, the process of writing. Okay, the process of writing will help you again here. So आप directly, you don't go for the writing directly, but you always start by asking the why, what, when, how first, and then only you go for it. First of all, the clarity is very important. अच्छा, clarity हो गई, ठीक है. The second thing, that the point that I wanted to insist on is that you don't go for 2 to 3 things together. You just decide and just create an outline first, how you want to go for what thing. Suppose you want to make 3 points, you can first find out, you can first see it yourself, which point is less related to the other 2. Okay, and agar ho sake, just focus on one thing at a time. Then for the second, and then you can go for the third thing as well. Then of course the lexical resource, आप vocabulary को यहाँ पे use कर सकते हैं कि सबसे पहले keep it very very simple, very very easy. और अगर मैं सिर्फ एक grammar का यहाँ पे point mention कर सकूँ, I don't want to make it too technical, लेकिन सिर्फ एक grammar का point, जिससे कि आपके flow को जो कि बहुत तोड़ भी सकता है, and it can make it very easy for the reader also, which is the passive voice. ओके, तो अगर आपको याद हो पैसिव वॉइस, आपने कभी, आई एम श्योर सब लोगों ने पुराने जमाने में जरूर पढ़ा होगा, but you try and use more of active when you want to keep it simple and when you don't want to break the flow of it. Okay, so punctuation is one thing, very little thing, punctuation, and apart from that, the active voice helps you out in that, especially when it comes to writing emails.
Perfect, perfect. Minhas, so the next question that we have is regarding the barriers of communication, but it is interesting. Why? Because the participant, she has asked this question in terms of virtual communication, that how virtual communication has it increased the barriers in communication, or is it something that cannot be comparable with our normal day communication? How is it? Like, do we face more barriers when we are talking virtually, like particularly how do you feel when you're doing a webinar?
Okay, very humbly, I would disagree with this, that it has increased the barriers for us. I don't agree with that thought. It's just the thing that जब भी हम कोई नई चीज शुरू करते हैं तो हमें वो ज्यादा मुश्किल लगती है. It's just that. Okay, so we all have been in that place. I think March के end से या April में, April 2020 में स्पेशली बहुत सारे लोगों में से हम सब ने ये चीज फेस की कि हमें मार्च के एंड या अप्रैल से जब हमें वर्चुअल जाना पड़ा, मीटिंग्स हो गई लोगों के साथ सारी चीजें, एंड देन इन द बिगिनिंग इट वाज एक्सट्रीमली डिफिकल्ट. 3 months डाउन द लाइन इट वाज नॉट दैट डिफिकल्ट बिकॉज जब हमने वो चीजें करना शुरू कर दी इट गॉट ईजियर. ठीक है, मैंने यहाँ पे एक एग्जांपल भी मेंशन की थी कि when I would conduct a training, जब हम लोग in person जाकर और जब when I'm in a room with people and I'm conducting a training, the first thing people might notice is the body language, your appearance, your looks, everything. But here when I have a training, the most important thing would be the lighting or the camera angle for me. Okay, so it's just the adaptability factor. You have to just consider that a little bit कि ये barriers हमारे कम से कम physical barriers ये तो बहुत आसान हो गया हमारी. बस it's just that you have to adapt a little bit. That's about it. हाँ, एक और communication की मैं बात कर सकता हूँ, that is dealing with your teams and all. Okay, so for that, well, फिर अब वो एक completely different subject है, but dealing with your teams and all, then you have to be more regular with that, more rigorous with that. Okay, and call to action always has to be there in your communication. May it be written या आप meetings में करें. By the end of it, the call to action has to be always there because अगर आपकी टीम को पता नहीं होगा कि उनको कब respond करना है, कब उनको they have to get back to you and all, it becomes all the more important in virtual communication. So ये कुछ चीज़ है.
Perfect, perfect. So the next question is, okay, so I've gotten this in my chat box, Minhas. Question is linked to listening, how to deal with a person who has been discussing with you about one topic or issue regularly, and every time he gets the same response, but is not accepting it. How to make people
sorry.
accept the point?
Anam, can you come again? I think it broke a little bit.
Yeah, so the question is related to listening part, which we discussed. Who is discussing with you about the same topic again and again, and he's getting a similar response every time, but he's not accepting it. So how to make people accept the point, or your, how you can make them accept your view?
Okay, so reasoning helps you out. That's your best friend here. That when some kind of response has been given or some decision has been made and the person is not able to take it that easily, happens with all of us. हर तरह की टीम में होता है और हमेशा होता भी रहेगा हमेशा, which is quite natural. But you first have to talk about the reasoning, why the decision has been that way or why that kind of response has been given. Then the second step, of course, can be asking that individual as well, how they see, how according to that individual things should go. And then when they present, you can ask, एक बहुत simple सा question है. This is by my favorite speaker and writer, Brian Tracy. So he usually mentions this. He says, how do you mean? Okay, so you ask the other person कि आपके हिसाब से क्या होना चाहिए, and the person says, ये काम ऐसे होना चाहिए. You ask, how do you mean? Like, how exactly do you mean? ये काम कैसे होगा? And when the person tells you the second layer to it, you ask one more question, how do you mean? Okay, so for example, your subordinates insist that they should have less work or anything that makes it a little flexible for them. You ask them, how do you exactly mean? And then they tell you about the changing the slots, the timings of the work, the schedule, anything else. And then you ask, how do you mean? and then they further tell you कि अच्छा हम जब नई shift में काम करेंगे तो इस तरह से हमारी productivity बढ़ जाएगी, and then you ask one more how. Sometimes you just have to ask it once. How do you mean? You can remember this. Very nice phrase. Sometimes it's just once you have to ask. Sometimes you might have to ask that 3 times, 4 times to further specify what the other person, where the other person is coming from. So it's a good simple tip. I hope it helps.
Perfect. Nice one. And the next question, which can probably be our second last question, we'll be able to take 1 or 2 more questions only now, since it's about to be 4 p.m. We have this question: how to give a reminder to ask update with your senior in good manners in email. So this is quite a scenario-based question where probably we can share in an email template with them. Exactly.
You're talking about follow-up
with a senior,
especially with your seniors. Okay.
Yeah.
मैं दो keywords यहाँ पर ले रहा हूँ, follow up and especially with seniors, right? I hope this is the question. So हाँ, okay. So मैंने अभी बात की थी call to action की. So first of all, you have to check your, especially because we're talking about emails, right? So first of all, you have to check your email, your writing. Go back to it once. It wouldn't harm you. Just go back to it once. Check it for 5 minutes. Did it have the clear call to action? Exactly what you wanted that individual to reply to or say or do, whatever it is. Okay. First of all, you have to check that. All right. Second, you can check in your writing. Did it talk about one action, one thing, or did it talk about many? There are more chances. जब 2, 3, 4 चीजें, there are more chances it will be ignored easily. Okay. So one thing to focus on. Second, clear, specified call to action with some kind of deadline is mentioned and all. In my experience, and this has been shared by a lot of clients with me, that when they do this more than 50% of the time, यानी आधे से भी ज़्यादा, they feel that okay, they had to change something in their writing. Okay, so a lot of times, like I talked about interpersonal, बाद में first you talk about intrapersonal communication. A lot of times you have to check first how you are going about it, and then it fixes half the problem there. अब दूसरे वाले केस पे बात करते हैं. When you are doing it constantly, but you are still not getting a response. Okay, so for that, then you will have to probably bring a little assertiveness to your tone. You can then probably add more of a deadline there. Okay, or you can add 1 or 2 questions there. Okay, because questions are difficult to ignore, comparatively more difficult to ignore. So you can also add 1 or 2 questions in the end. So when they reply to the question, or of course, for last resort रहेगा, you will have to pick up the phone and say, can you just answer the question in my email? Of course, when they start answering the question, the other things also get settled. Okay, so these are some of the strategies you can go with. First of all, checking yourself. Second, थोड़ा सा assertiveness, थोड़ा सा आप tone में ला सकते हैं. And of course, adding deadline and all, and some kind of question there.
Perfect. So here we come to an end. There is a question. In fact, this is a question that has been asked to us if we'll be sharing any links to improve communication skills. So I would like you all, we have around 40 participants here. You can join in Learning Minds Facebook and YouTube page, and you will find a series of videos that we have done with Minhas Meghani on written communication and verbal communication. And there are a lot of tips and tricks that Minhas keeps on sharing on our social media. So you can follow him there as well. And secondly, any last comments from your side,
And you
Minhas?
can check out my page on Facebook as well. This is a good opportunity for me to promote myself also. So you can do that as well. Okay, so yeah, as Anam said that, yeah, we keep sharing a lot of tips and tricks to improve your written communication. Abhi to recently we made the 5-episode series for written communication as well. And you might have seen one of them, but if you have not, check out the Learning Minds page, and you will get to know about our courses as well, the new programs that we are designing. And of course, you can always bring them in-house to your own organization as well.
Exactly. Any last few comments from your side, Minhas? Any communication?
I really want to appreciate.
You would like to end?
Oh, Jazakallah. Thank you so much. Some people are appreciating. Thank you so much. I really want to appreciate this these group of learners, I would say, that who were with me. and very nice questions as well. I like to keep it interactive, so the overall interaction, your answers, your inputs, everything. And in fact, once I was not expecting to get the correct answer, but surprisingly I got that one. So some questions are tricky, but still I think I got almost all the answers, and very good questions as well. So I really want to appreciate you all for joining this session, and see you around, and happy learning.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Anam, you want to take a picture or something? No. Anam, your mic is mute. Your mic is mute.
Okay, so to the participants, I would just request and if they can open up their videos for a second, and we'll have a group photograph as a remembrance of this webinar session and to appreciate you all learners over here. So if you can just open up your videos for a second and give a thumbs up so that we can have a nice screenshot as a remembrance of this session. So here we go. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. You'll be receiving an email from our communications department, and they'll be sharing with you a few links as well, so that you guys can, keep a track of what Minhas is sharing with us on social media and about his upcoming programs as well. Thank you all for being with us, and take care.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Okay.